Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 168. Today we're going to talk about Legacy Gears of Time. This was a Kickstarter, I believe sometime last year. This is a card-driven sort of Euro game with a really wonky theme. It's about time travel, and you're going to go back in time and sort of be responsible for inventing, key inventions like fire and the wheel and different things like that. Well, those sort of basic, in the game it calls them fundamental inventions, are going to be sort of prerequisites for, further inventions like basic sciences, advanced sciences, the internet, different things like that. So you're going to be playing these cards on this timeline as sort of the present day is shifting forward, and you have a very limited amount of actions and resources to do that with, and you've got to be it's real critical and crucial how far back in time you go and what kind of cards you can play, and you've got little influence markers to put on the different cards. So let's take a look at how it plays, and I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, here I've got a little two-player game set up. I've got a pawn in each player color set up here. This is sort of the present day. As you go through the different rounds, this will move down, and then we're going to slide this little piece here and then add on a little token there. And so you can see you've got Roman numerals there. You're going to be playing cards underneath these areas here, and this is going to tell you the amount of cards that are able to exist here. So you only be able to have one card here, whereas you get down here you can have 5 different cards played under there. And those are going to be different technology cards. Here you've got a stack of cards here, and then a little discard pile there. And I don't know if all the copies come with this, but mine came with special custom-made sleeves just for the game, so that's actually pretty nice. So let's take a look at the cards that you're going to be playing here. So here you've got a fundamental technology or ability here, and this is law. So you can see here, this is the amount of cards you're going to have to pay to put this into play, and that's the amount of points you're going to get every round if you can control this card. And everybody's going to get influence cubes in their color that they're going to play out onto these cards. So you've got law there, that's a pretty basic one. Now here you've got the internet. So you can see this costs 4 cards to get out into play, but it's going to score you 10 points every time. But there's also some prerequisite technologies here. So you've got the analytic engine here, and this is going to give whoever controls the analytic engine 7 points if the internet scores. So you want to get cubes on some of these pre-existing or prerequisite technologies to be able to score lots of points, not only for that technology itself, but for something like the internet that's going to score if that technology exists. And you've got here radio 2. And then it also gives you a nice list of all of their prerequisites for this prerequisite. So the analytic engine requires electricity, logic, printing press, which requires writing. Now you're not going to score bonus points for those for the internet, but these are actually going to score when the analytic engine scores, and so on. So you've got a couple other ones. You got fire. Let's see. You got the wheel. These are a little bit basic ones. And then you've also got some special cards here. Let's see if I can find one. Now there are a couple, I think there's 4 or 5 in here. This is special action cards. So during your turn you're going to get a certain number of actions. We'll talk about the turn flow in a second. But you can play these and just basically do their ability for the effect, and those are always going to be a free action, sort of a little bonus. And you can do them to sort of mess with people or to protect yourself. There's not a lot of them, but they are effective enough that you have to definitely be wary of them and have the possibility of them being played on you. So I would say to definitely familiarize yourself with these so you don't get caught off guard in your first game or two. So in the board here in the center you've got 2 different tracks here. You're basically going to have 4 turns of actions. Each player is going to get 3 actions that they can do, and then you're going to reset this, and they're going to go to the second round and then do 4 turns of 3 actions, and basically have 4 total rounds with 4 turns in each round, and then you're going to add up your score at the end. Up here you've got a turn order track that's randomly decided at the beginning of the game, and then you're going to do some checking during the rounds for whoever has the least amount of influence in their pool, which I'll explain, and then you're going to reorder based on that, and then if there's any ties you're going to check the score track over here, which each player's going to have a cube and move up there, and then there's a little 50-point tokens that you'll take every time you sort of loop around the board there. Now players will start the game off with 6 cards, and then if you're the first player you'll keep 6, and then each other player is going to get extra cards if they go later in the initial turn order. And then each player is going to get a little player aid and sort of just a little personality. So you got on the back side here some different personalities, don't really have a lot to do with the gameplay, but you're going to get bonus points if you control mining during the scoring that's going to happen at the end of each round. You're going to get 3 extra points, whereas this guy will get extra points for advanced scientists and different things. This guy will get extra points for law. And it's also got a player aid of the possible actions that you can do. And then what they're going to be used for, what we use for, and it's not really specified in the rules, is you're going to have a bunch of these cubes. And you're going to have them off to the side, and this is going to be called your influence supply. Now, through actions in the game, you're going to get influence cubes into your pool. So what I do is I just put them on the card just to keep them separate. So the supply is just going to be off the card, and you can put the rest, on the card or maybe on the other side of the card. So what are the possible actions to do on your turn? Well, very basically, the first action is to be able to travel backwards in time. So you could take your pawn and move it anywhere along this time track. So I could go back here to the 1, the 2, or the 3, anywhere. Now you can never travel forward in time, so you don't want to jump all the way to the end, or else you're going to be basically stuck there. At the end of the round, after taking 4 turns, everybody's going to return to the present time, and then you're going to move this marker up as the game progresses. But for the purposes of that round, you can never move back up the time track. And the next thing you can do is to establish a technology, and that's simply doing this wherever your pawn is. So if I was here, I could establish this technology here. I'd have to pay 2 cards, to discard 2 cards there, and then I'll put that there. Now, this is a fundamental technology here. So there's multiple copies of all these cards here. So if somebody else were to establish sanitation earlier than me, when we get around to scoring, that's going to sort of supersede this card. So part of the game is figuring out where is a good idea to place these technologies, so that you're the guy that controls them and has the most influence on them. And the other part of that is also getting it to a spot where you kind of fill up these different columns here. Because remember, you can only play 1 card here and then 2 cards here, and then as the game progresses, this is also going to shift up. So it's going to allow a sort of a broader spectrum of things to happen in the past there. So you got to keep that in mind too. So when you play this, you're going to discard that number of cards. Then you're going to take that same number of influence cubes out of your supply, not of your pool. Okay, so out of your general supply, they're going to go on there. The number of cards you discard is the number of influence cubes you're going to put on there. So that's establishing a technology. The next thing you can do is influence a technology. Now, to start the game, nobody's going to be able to do this, but after you've scored, which I'll explain in a minute, you're going to start to get cubes into your pool. And like I said, we just put them on the card to keep track of them. So now, after the first round, you can take influence cubes off of your card, as many as you want, and then put them on 1 card. So if I've got several technologies out here, I could maybe take, put 2 on this one, and then hold this other one later for another one. So you can take as many as you want, and then you put them on 1 card to sort of, try to take control of the influence. So maybe the yellow player here maybe had a bunch of cubes, and they're going to really try to take that. Finally, the last thing you can do is you can draw a card that basically is draw 2 cards off the top, keep 1, and then discard the one that you don't want there. And again, you can play these fate cards here for a free action. Doesn't count as one of your 3 actions. Okay, so after we've taken 4 turns of 3 actions, then we're going to go into scoring, and we're going to resolve that here. So after, you're basically going to move from the earliest time period up into present day, and then after you've resolved scoring and some other cleanup, then we're going to move on to the next round. So let's go through a little sample scoring that I set up here. So we're going to start here on the left. We got fire here. This is worth 3 points. Yellow is the dominating player here, so they're going to get the 3 points. Whereas down here in the basic scientists, this is worth 2 points, but there's a tie, so these guys are going to split those points here. And then down here we've got basic tools here, which is a fundamental technology which is going to be required in the case of the mining here. So this guy's going to get 1 point there for scoring that. Then we'll move up here to advanced sciences, and you can see this one will score you 2 points, but also has a requirement of basic sciences here. And basic sciences, again, is going to score another 2 points. So yellow's going to get 2 points for this one. And then since they're both on here, yellow and blue, this is going to score again, and then again the points will be split. So these early technologies here, they're not going to score as big of a bang as some of these later technologies, but they're going to score again and again, throughout the scoring process here. But we'll get to electricity here. There's no cubes on this. I'll explain how that can happen in just a second, but if that's the case, this is just going to get discarded and removed from the timeline altogether. Next we're going to get to mining here, and the blue player's on mining, so he's going to get 3 points. And again, the basic tools is going to score down here. So yellow was actually on basic tools, so he's got 1 point there, and then another point because mining triggered it. So even though this is an earlier technology, yellow's got 2 total points out of it, whereas blue, he got mining, which is better. It's 3 points apiece, but it's 3 points to 2 points. So not a huge difference in scoring there. But if the blue player had this card here, again, he would score 3 extra points because he was the one that controlled mining in this case. And finally, we're going to get here to the currency here. And this has a few prerequisites here. Now, blue had 2 of his tokens on there, and you have a prerequisite of writing, which doesn't exist, and also a prerequisite of mining, and which has another prerequisite of basic tools, which does exist. But this one is going to fail, so this one's not going to score because there was no writing out here. So now we're going to go through and we're going to remove cubes off of these scored technologies, and these are going to go into the player's pool. On all the successful technology, you'll take 1 cube off of the owner, the scoring player, cube, and put that into their pool. So in this case, the yellow would get 1. In this case, they're both tied, so these would come off. In this case, there's only 1 cube on here, but so that's going to come off for the yellow. So now there's no cubes on here, so somebody's going to need to directly influence that to keep it in play. And again, these fundamental ones are, the building blocks of these later ones, like so. So this one here is discarded because there was no cubes on it. Again, this one will have a cube come off it. This one will have a cube come off it. This one here, since it was failed, the most influential player is going to remove a cube. In this case, it's only blue, so he's going to take this off. This is not going to go to the pool, though. It's going to go into his supply. And then we're going to take a look and see who has the least amount of cubes in their pool. And then ties are broken again by the score. And they're going to reorder the turn order. And then go to the next round. And then keep playing until the end of the game. And then you're going to add up whoever has most points wins. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. I have a little bit of a confession to make. I have been coming a little bit jaded and tired of games coming out of Kickstarter because they'd either come out with something that needed rules changes or unclear rules or just not very good, just kind of okay, compared to the games that came out from the big name guys or whatever, not necessarily big name guys, but guys that didn't use Kickstarter. Those games just seem to be far and above, quality-wise, buff. So this game is not one of those. This is an excellent game, and I was very surprised at this game. It took a little bit to get into, but after repeated plays, it was a little bit interesting at how really key those fundamental technologies are. The key to that is that you're going to sort of get your influence pool cycling, because it's going to be very important to play the card. You have sort of and again, you have that sort of cost benefit idea where you play a card and you discard a bunch of cards to get it out, which is bad because you maybe get rid of a bunch of cards that you really want to play, and so it makes it very difficult. But once you get that out, then you got the same amount of cubes coming on there. So you're going to get those out. Those are going to then move into your pool if you score them. And then you can be able to sort of like take over and control, some of these other different technologies that are coming out. And then it becomes sort of a nice little cycle there. And then as that timeline kind of grows, there's going to be a lot more room to kind of go and usurp these fundamental technologies and kind of get the other guy to get his influence back into his supply and not into his pool. So there's kind of a little cat and mouse going on that way. So it's very, very interesting. The special ability cards can be very drastic and you can also like protect a card. So you play cards that says, okay, you can't mess with the influence on this card. But there's only 4 of them, I think, or 4 or 5, I can't remember. So they're not going to come up a lot, like I said, but they are going to, tweak the game enough where I think it's not going to make it so. I don't know. I like them. They fit. They do a good job. I don't think they're too crazy or not crazy enough or anything. They seem to be right in the sweet spot. And the whole thing about traveling back is really cool. That element is really, really interesting. That kind of combined with the whole idea of having the fundamental technology that's going to score 2-3 times based on the future technologies, and you don't want to go too far back because you're kind of dictated to by the cards that you have dealt in your hand. So you can't just go all the way back and then you've got a bunch of really futuristic cards that you don't want to have too far back because then there's not really room enough for all the prerequisites to exist. And you don't want to put the fundamentals in the space 1 or the 2 because it's very easy to go back and usurp them. So it's very, very interesting, and I love games where you pay for cards with other cards because that always makes that. It seems like that mechanic is just very, I don't know what the word is, but it seems to really hit home with me, but it also seems to really just come with a whole lot of interesting decisions, just that mechanic by itself, because it's like, what do I get rid of, what do I keep, you know, I'm going to use this later, but then I won't be able to do this now to set up my engine. So that constantly is a fun thing for me, like San Juan or Race for the Galaxy, you know, are big proponents of that. Now the theme is really weird, and it's kind of funny because, like, I don't really like the individual artwork on the cards. It just, you know, I just don't like it. It's art. But as a whole, when you kind of get everything all laid out and stuff, and the gears and everything showing up, it looks neat. So I really think cohesively the overall UI and stuff, or UI, sorry, I'm a software engineer. Yeah, UI is user interface. The whole graphic design and the whole interface of, you know, all the components and everything, it makes sense and it works, and I like it. Okay, the theme. The actual theme of time traveling, and then, like, I invented fire here, and then I pushed fire back, and then now I influenced fire, and it has a little backstory to that, which I don't know, whatever. But I like it because it's almost like a Civ game where you're playing Civilization in reverse or something, and you're trying to get the different technologies. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's time travel, so I don't really. You know, it's not that big of a deal, but it's got a steampunk, which is sort of like reality that is. It's like I've always pictured steampunk as like an alternate reality. Like there may be, if you believe in alternate universes or something along those lines, you know, maybe there is a steampunk version of this Earth somewhere, you know, whatever. But you know, that kind of story, that environment that the game presents is like that. So it's like, okay, I'm just playing in this other world, and it really comes across, and just kind of, you know, jerking with the time continuum and stuff. It's just is interesting. So anyway, this is a great game. I really enjoy this, and definitely one I'm going to be keeping. And, you know, I've sort of taken a look at Kickstarter here. Speaking of Kickstarter, these guys have, I believe, right now a Kickstarter for the expansion to this. So I haven't even looked at it, so I should go take a look at that. But yeah, Legacy Gears of Time, and yes, Kickstarter games are good. All right, thanks.